What can a coffee shop and a lumber yard tell you about how important storytelling is to a business? Well, how about if I tell you a story? Because in this series, we are going to go beyond the hype about storytelling and really start to walk you through how the power of your personal narrative permeates your business. And what we want to help you do is locate it, focus in on it, and learn how to deploy it in all of the places where it can have an impact on attracting your ideal client, helping other clients come back into your sales funnel. Frankly, how it aligns with every aspect of your business and eventually starts to put money in your bank account. So that story about a coffee shop and a lumber yard. Listen up. So when I left American Express back in 2011, I eventually purchased a coffee shop in my hometown. And I wanted to take it from what was kind of a rundown, in and out kind of place. And I was trying to upgrade it into something that looks a little bit like this. And one afternoon, I'm pretty sure it was a Sunday, a gentleman walked into the store. I was pretty much alone. I think there might have been one person in the back room cleaning up, but it was mid to late afternoon and the place was quiet. And his sweatshirt said Sonderling High School. Sonderling High School was in the town where my father's lumber yard was. So I knew Sonderling and its sister school, Ross, very, very well because I worked there for about 8 years. So when this gentleman walked in with this sweatshirt on, I looked up and smiled at him and I said, Sonderling, huh? You're from Brentwood? And he looked at me shocked because you'd really have to live there or work there to know the name of this high school. And he looked at me and he said, you know Sonderling High School? I said, yeah. I said, I worked at Brentwood Panel and Lumber on Suffolk Avenue for about 8 years. He said, you worked there? He said, the guy, the owner, he was incredible. What an incredible human being. And then he started to tell me stories. He said when he was a young kid and his father was growing the family and they had to take this little Cape Cod and expand it because they didn't have enough bedrooms. He said, yeah, this guy, the owner, he came by the house and he kind of, spec'd out the whole job and helped my father understand how much lumber he was going to need and how much a contractor should pay him, should be paid for the job. And he was just marvelous. What a really nice guy. And then a couple of years later, when my father wanted to expand the deck in the backyard, again, this guy came by and he spec'd out the whole job for my dad and figured out how much lumber he was going to need and what it was going to cost him. He said, that guy was one of the nicest guys in the world. And when he was finished with his story, I looked up at him and I said, that was my dad. Now, I don't think I've ever seen that guy again. I eventually closed the coffee shop 3 years later for a variety of reasons. But the moral of this story about this gentleman and his story and my father's story was that my father's business could have been broken down into the basics. We sell lumber. We sell hardware. We help you expand your home. Or the story could be that at the very least, there was this one man, the owner, who cared about your life and where you were in your life and what you needed to build a happy life. And if it meant extending the roof line on your house so you could put more bedrooms in, if it meant putting on a deck so that everybody could sit outside in the warm weather and enjoy the backyard, that was my father's why. So, Home Depot or Lowe's, they're not necessarily selling that. They talk about the hardware and lumber that you need for your business and for your home. That wasn't my father's why. And that is the importance of storytelling. So let's talk a little bit about it from a business perspective. Storytelling is the foundation of your business's potential. Everything in your business depends upon you having a really good grasp of your story and your business's story, because it's your ability to distinguish yourself. Everybody can sell a certain cruise line or a certain resort chain, but how do you do it in a distinguished, unique way? Because people can go buy that product from anybody. They can buy it direct. They can buy it through Expedia. They can buy it from another travel advisor. But if they know your why and your why matches up with the why of their vacation, then you very likely are going to be part of a narrow group of options they're going to connect with. That helps you attract more and more of those ideal clients, because we all may sell the same thing, but I may sell it because of my personal perspective. For my father and that lumber yard, he attracted people who didn't just want a passive transaction. They were looking for somebody to handhold them, give them confidence, connect with them on a personal level. And my father had that ability. And once word got out in town that that was what Ralph D'Ambrosio stood for, more ideal clients like this gentleman, his father, came to that business and made it successful. It also, by understanding your story, you can start to pick and choose your preferred suppliers and destinations better. My father had certain brands that he only wanted to sell because there was a reliability factor that he wanted. If he was going to put his personal stamp on a person expanding their home, he wanted Anderson windows. He wanted Pella windows. He didn't want cheap knockoffs. If there was hardware, he wanted stuff that wasn't made out of plastic, but it was all metal. So he aligned his story and his why with his preferred suppliers. How is your story leading to that? If you sell everything, or if you sell stuff that really kind of doesn't fit with you, does it show? Does that mean that when somebody calls you and says, I need this kind of vacation, and you hand them something from a preferred supplier that really doesn't fit completely with your brand, but it was an easy way to make a proposal, and they go and purchase it directly? Do you think that maybe that misalignment might be the reason why? Your story also helps you build and maintain momentum, because when you're all over the place, it's harder for you to keep your business moving forward. But if you're focused on that story, then you are a romance specialist who loves to see couples build a relationship and sustain a relationship by having vacations where they connect with each other. Then the resorts you're going to sell them, the cabins on the cruise ships that you're going to sell them, all of those factors are going to be doubled down, and it's going to be easy for you to present it. The social content that you'll present to tell these stories will be easier for you to find because you're focused on that powerful part of you, your story. And then finally, because all of this is working for you, it is going to be so much easier for you to sustain a profitable business model. When you are scattered all over the place and you're using different business building tools and you're using different booking tools because you've got 12 different preferred suppliers and this wholesaler that you're working with, and your content is scattered and not repeatedly telling your story, then you're probably attracting clients on often occasion below the profit level that you need, below the hourly rate that you should be paid for who you are and what you do. But when you're living your story every single moment of every day, it is so much easier for you to sustain that profit business model. But how the heck do I do it, Rich? Everybody talks about storytelling, but nobody ever instructs me. How do I do this? Well, the sad thing is, it's really simple. This is how you do it. I teach this in our 12-week class, the Business Accelerator class, the Travel Business Mastermind. This is what I teach from. It is the classic narrative arc that almost every movie, every great novel follows, that there's an opening scene. And as somebody moves through this cycle, whether that cycle is 6 hours long, 6 weeks long, 60 years long, there's going to be moments when some kind of conflict or event is going to happen. And those moments start to reveal things about the protagonist and their journey. The action rises, it reaches a climax, and then it decreases into the denouement, which is sort of the lesson, the moral of the story. And this is the model that's pretty much true for just about everything in our lives. If you learn how to look at what's going on in your life, going on in your client's vacation journey, and start to ask yourself a series of questions and engage people like your suppliers or your clients in giving you the information to tell that story. Because writing the story isn't necessarily easy. And very often, pulling stuff out of people who are not invested in you and helping you tell this story can take time and effort. But once you start to practice this more, it really is simple. So let's take an example. Your About Me page on your website. You have a narrative arc in your life. I have 56 years of my narrative arc. I can break that narrative arc down into a day, a couple of hours, or 56 years, depending upon what I'm trying to tell the person listening to that story. Your About Me page is trying to sell why you're different and unique and why someone should fill out your I would like a complimentary consultation call. So think about where your story starts. Are there personal memories that directly relate to your travel business, maybe even back to your childhood, that help people understand how you got to today? Because those are the foundations of your love for travel, and you want to focus in on those moments. I know travel advisors who will say, oh my goodness, the reason why Disney is so important to me is because it started when I was a child and I went there for the first time with my parents. And then I became a parent, and I'll never forget the first time I went to Disney with my kids. And then once I started selling Disney, how happy I am when I hear the stories of my clients. Oh, so you mean your travel journey started all the way back then? And now I'm starting to understand why you love Disney so much. So now you're progressing into this expert. Where in the paragraphs on your About Me page are you telling me how you acquired your expertise? The trips you've taken. Maybe there's jobs that you've held that not only speak to why you're such a great Disney consultant, but also, the customer service that you offered came from a certain place. The processes that you have that enrich the experience for your clients came from a certain place. And now a couple of sentences about that. Now we reach the denouement, the climax. This is where you are today as a professional. And that paragraph should be talking about how all of this that previously came leads you to the point where you are today, reading about me. And this is how me, that person who's been on this journey, helps you. And now you can articulate where that benefit arises for the person reading your About Me page. And you want to make them feel it come to life about not just saying, it makes me an expert on, but it can say, it's the reason why when you arrive at your Disney resort, you'll always have me hovering in the background because I'm taking care of your reservations for dining. And I've made sure that the sessions for your kids with the character breakfast are all set up. You want to bring it to life to them and not just say, I have a great attention to detail. Well, how does that make me understand my experience? even though it is a part of that journey. So let's give you an example, a client testimonial. When you're starting to put together a client testimonial, the story of what you did for them starts before they called you. Why was that person taking that trip? It's not just so-and-so wanted to go on a beach vacation. No, they wanted to go on a beach vacation for a reason. They were burned out from a long 2 years of working on a project at work. They had just built a business and finally got the chance to go away. The family hadn't been on vacation in 3 years due to a financial crisis in the family. There's a reason why people go on vacations. And sometimes not every story is that powerful. But when it is, if there's a deeper meaning, you want to ask those clients if you can share that with the public, because that's the beginning of a compelling narrative. And at that point, were there any special needs that their why required? I have known travel advisors who helped blind couples celebrate anniversaries on Caribbean islands. That was a special need. Or maybe there was a marriage that was on the rocks and there was a special need to make sure that the romance and the rooms and the cabins and the excursions would help a couple come back together again. So if those special needs required your special skills, we want to try to understand that in this testimonial. So now, what did you do for them that made their why come true? And again, it can't be simplistic notions like, well, I used my preferred suppliers to get them extra perks so that they didn't have to pay for it. What were those perks? Why were those perks relevant to the special need? And how did your special expertise and skills and your preferred partners make that why come to life? Now we reach the climax of that client's vacation. Was there like a really special moment in that trip where that why, the why of the trip, and your why of why you're a travel advisor, where they intersected and it was powerfully present? You want that in the testimonial, and you want to go deeper. Too often I see dry testimonials where it's like, okay, this person thinks that this travel advisor is very special and has great skills. But you know what? What we know about storytelling is that if you don't put me in the scene and let me know that it was the fact that that room that you booked was adjacent to the beach and that couple needed to go for walks in the morning when it was quiet so they could talk and loosen up and express things to each other in a manner that they might not have been able to do across a table at dinner. That is the powerful story that attracts the ideal client. And you want to look for direct quotes from them that sort of get into that denouement period. That period of, what's the moral of this story? The moral of this story is that couples who are looking for someone they can be open with about their why, so that that person makes that why come to life the way that they were hoping it could, that you and only you are that special person. This is the power of narrative arcs in storytelling. I am not going to pretend that this is easy. It's the reason why I get paid, to help people like you do this. But you can learn how to do this over time, enough so that maybe you'll never need to pay me to do this. Of course, if you need help, I would love to consult with you. But the key for me is that I start seeing more travel advisors moving away from, telling over to showing through the beauty of words. And hopefully one day, through you having a courageous video out there where you tell these stories and you start to put that on your social and you're putting that on your website, and that your testimonials are coming to life in a way where someone who stumbles across you says, I get them. I want them to take care of this next vacation. So the best way to do that is to find your story. My father found his story. He was a carpenter by trade. He never graduated. He never went to college. He graduated high school, immediately started working right after World War II. And when he finally bought that lumber yard, if you were ever around him, you would understand that while it was an important place for him to earn an income so that he and my mom could raise 9 children, more important was the fact that it was part and parcel to my father's heart and soul. And that the story of his life was about helping people make their life stories come true. And that's why this young man who walked into my coffee shop remembered Ralph D'Ambrosio and Brentwood Panel. So stay tuned. I'm going to be doing more videos like this. I so want you to become a storytelling expert, and we will talk very, very soon.